Welcome to the Crafty Mini and the next episode in the October Nightmare. So again, we're going to be using some cheap Halloween decorations and upcycling them into something a bit more sinister. And again, at the end of the episode there'll be a backstory about what the item actually is and its sinister history. So, going on to the actual project itself. So this was from a local UK shop called Home Bargains. They've always got some, Halloween stuff in. This was £2. Really cheap. It's something, again, something that you'll get for Halloween and it'll probably get thrown away. So this is how we can upcycle this and make something a bit more fun out of it. So it's literally just a head with some weird hair in and a cloth dress and two arms. There's no body or anything that you can see here. So I'm just trimming the cloth down now, and anything that I remove or don't use on this project you'll see in a future project for the October Nightmare as well. I'm going to recycle absolutely everything of this. So my initial idea was like a jack-in-the-box type thing in this little box that I had laying around. Trying to see if it would fit, should I bother doing a spring, keep the arms, things like that. Just going through, working out what it is I actually want to do, and then I decided, no, we're going to try something a bit different with this. So I'm taking the hands off and removing the head. Okay, so the head's going to go in the box, and I'm thinking about, shall I use the skeletal hands? It looks like it's prying the box lid open. And then that wadding is either part of the dress or the hair that was originally on the model. One of those I end up using. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe just have part of the head showing instead. And this is a really cheap hollow plastic, so it's easy enough to cut here just with a standing blade. So I'm just chopping the sort of top third of the head off. And then roughly just under the nose and or top of the mouth. I'm cutting as straight as I can. Again, this is going to be hot glued down, so it's not too much of a problem if it isn't level. But yeah, cut this through. And you can see there roughly what I'm going for, as if there's this deformed child thing, demon, trying to pop out of this box. And again here, this is where I was thinking, shall I use the hands as if it's tearing out? But I've actually got another project in mind for those, which you'll see later on in the October Nightmare. So I've got this one of these spare tea lights, because I had a pack of 3 or 4 I think it was, for when I did the Mushroom Man camping. So I thought, right, we'll use this and then cut the eyes out, and then it'll have a light from behind the actual sort of face itself. Right, so I've taken the little tea light out there. It's got like a protective nib on it. I've took that off just so the light will shine a bit more. I'm going to cut the eyes out and then glue this in, so the light will actually be reflecting at the back of the eyes. Really simple, just a bit of hot glue just to make sure this stays down, because the switch itself's on the bottom, so that's why we've cut the hole in the actual box. And just take your time with this step. And you can see I'll just move it around, I push it through and then back in. It's just so the glue actually settles on more surface area, so it actually stays secure. And I'm just figuring out now the positioning of the head. So this is the actual hair that was on the decoration, so I've sort of rolled that up, and that's going to be the bedding for inside. That'll help diffuse the light, and also just bulk it out so the face part that I'm sticking in will sit better. But you can see there, so the idea is the eyes are just going to be popping above the rim. And I go in and just secure this with a bit of hot glue wherever it's touching the actual box or on the bottom, and then glue the lid on. And it lights up pretty cool. With the eyes as well, what I've done is my wet palette paper, I've just cut off 2 little rectangles and stuck those in on the inside of the head, and that'll just help diffuse the light a bit more, just so it won't look like a pumpkin then in that respect. And then when it comes to the box itself, I want to put a little bit of decoration on, so using the hot glue and just painting around it as if it's sort of an overspill of some weird liquid. In the end I end up painting it red as if it's sort of like a blood, but you could do any colour here. And this is just to add a bit of detail to the box, to make it so it stands out a bit more, and it just adds a bit more character and a bit more creepiness to the final finished thing. Right, and then when that's done, I wanted to put a design on the lid itself, so I'm just using this lid as a template. Just want to do a simple spiral. So draw that on, mark out my design, and again you could do any design you want. Originally I thought maybe like a pentagram or something, but decided against it because of the actual backstory in this that you'll hear later on in the video. And then just simply mix up some milliput, 2 parts equal. Squish this around. Remember, top tip, use a bit of Vaseline on your fingers if it starts to stick. And then when that's done, roll out some worms of it to make the actual spiral. And then I've got a central clump there, and then 4 other clumps for each corner of the actual lid. Now this will stick on pretty well by itself, but I leave it on the lid to dry, and then once it starts to go hard, I just put a couple of dabs of really thin super glue, or CA glue in America, just around the actual milliput itself, and that just helps secure it to the lid of the box. And there it is finished just before painting. Right, so onto the paint. So the actual paint scheme on the doll's face itself is pretty good and it works, the black and white. It's just obviously it's been either airbrushed on or done very, very quickly and cheaply in a factory. So I'm just going to go over with some white and black just to accentuate that and make it a bit neater. There's these cracks around the eyes that go into the cheeks and a little bit the forehead where the black, whatever they've used for their black paint hasn't gone in properly, so I'm going to neaten all that up as well. And this just brings the face a bit more to life. And just taking my time, making sure I don't go over the miniature in anywhere, and just painting it on. Just using like a stippling motion and quite thick lumps of paint just to give it a bit of texture to break it up. Right, when it comes to the box itself, just simple black acrylic all over. Just thin it down slightly with some water. It will go a bit scratchy because this is it's like a recycled card box, but that's okay because that adds to the effect. And we'll dry brush it a little bit with some grey just to weather it up and make all the edges pronounced. But just going over everything here that's not the hot glue, and then the lid itself, the whole spiral, gets base coated in black as well. Right, so when it comes to the hot glue bit, so I've done this red. So I start off with flat red by Vallejo. Add a little bit of vermilion later on the raised areas just to make it pop a little bit more, and then it all gets a wash afterwards. But this is pretty simple. It does take a couple of coats with the initial one on the actual hot glue itself, but just persevere with it and it'll give you a good coverage. Okay, so for the lid, so I've just got some simple, it's Shining Gold by Army Painter, and I'm just going around each of the chunks of milliput that I've put on, these 4 dots in the corners and the strange spiral, and then any excess just wipe it off onto my dry brush palette at the back, and then just dry brush that on the lid itself just to give it a bit of texture and a bit more rough and look a bit older. But a really simple effect. And with metallics, once you've washed them down as well, they shine really well and they look old and tarnished. Right, so onto the washes. So all of the metallics and the blood part around the rim of the box, they all get the same. So it's just a sepia wash from Citadel. You can use any brown wash you want. I just find sepia with metallics gives it a warmer feel to it. And on the blood it'll just make it look a bit older and a bit gnarlier and dirtier, as if you've got sort of those brown pockets of dry blood on there. We'll go on quite heavy with this and all done. So we'll go on to the glamour shots now and then on to the backstory. So thank you very much for watching, hope you've enjoyed it. This was a lot simpler than the other projects we've done so far in the October Nightmare, but it was still a lot of fun. And again, the idea you can upcycle these crappy toys that are going to end up on landfills at Halloween. You can see it here lit up and it looks really nice. It's got a good effect to it because the actual whole face lights up. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Recording begins. This object was found by an investigation team for the BPD in Tokyo, Japan, early 2022 in an abandoned home. The box, as it now known, is the vessel for an ancient spirit called the yokai. While this name can be used to describe something strange or unusual, this item has communicated with our research teams and called itself Subarashi Yokai, as if it were a higher level or something more bizarre or strange. After storage, it was found the box emitted many delta and gamma EMF waves that affected some of the other evidence here at the BPD, causing some incidents amongst staff and resulted in several casualties. Science teams have not been able to discover much about the box, and the few spiritual teams used have failed to draw any concrete conclusions about the item's origin, status, or indeed what the actual entity is. It is extremely dangerous and should not be taken from its enclosure without level 5 clearance and accompanied by the correct science and spiritual personnel. If the item needs to be moved at any point, it must be contained in a Series 8 containment or higher and moved on its own to ensure no interaction with any other evidence here at the BPD. Failure to comply with these safety and security criteria will result in immediate dismissal.